All right, so hi everyone, welcome to Mindful Mondays with Ali Moves. This week I am so excited to have Oxidate on board. So everyone, welcome Oxidate. Hi guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
No
me.
worries. Where's your face masks?
Well, considering we're brothers and we work together and isolating together, we don't need them. But I'm sure unfortunately we'll have to cover COVID at some period of time because at the moment we're actually unable to work. So I'm sure we'll get into some of that as the discussion.
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let's start off with who you both are. Now, I obviously know who you are, but can you, Jacob, start off with who you are and give us a little bit of a background on your life until now, yeah.
Sure. So Jacob Feller, co-director of Oxidate Performance. And where to start in terms of a brief life story, but at the moment I'm a football performance specialist. It's taken me 10 years within the industry to, I guess, hone and learn my craft. And then at the moment, I wouldn't say I've mastered it, but you can never stop learning, you can never stop getting better, nor should you. But over the last 10 years, I've become, a very specific coach for our niche and target audience in our market, which is soccer players, predominantly in the youth development stage. So the sub-elite to the elite. Going right back to being a kid, I used to play soccer. We're going to call it football today, if that's okay. And grew up playing football, grew up with mum and dad having to drive me around to all of the different training sessions, figuring out that your team coach necessarily wasn't good enough if you wanted to be the best. It's something that I've always had ingrained in me throughout life so far as to be a bit of a particular perfectionist, to put it politely. So I'm always trying to be better, always want the best outcome for myself and for others. So I've had this little quality that's been throughout. It's a bit of a theme towards, wanting to learn, become better, do better, all of those things. So as a young soccer player or football player, playing in rep sides, working with one-on-one specialists, all of these types of things, a very strong theme for me that's caused me to become the coach that I am is due to injuries. So as a young injured soccer player, having frustration, missing out on opportunities, whether it be trials or games or doing what you love, that was something that I become very, very frustrated with. I became very frustrated with coaches and quality of coaches, the input from coaches not suiting me. So I thought, you know what, at some stage of this lifetime, I'm going to be the coach that I never had. I'm going to give back to players what I didn't receive. And hopefully I can help one of me, change their outcome, if that makes sense.
And that just come about just from your childhood? Like you had that idea from the beginning?
I specifically, when I toured with an academy called Curva Coaching when I was 13, I had a coach who was the head coach, Paul Ben Velsen, and he was a bit of a mentor to me. And at that stage, I didn't know. I just thought he was super cool. He had an attractive wife. He had a nice sports car. He was working with all these kids. He had his own academy, and all of us little kids looked up to him and just loved him. So I think that's the connection for me. And consciously or subconsciously, I wanted to become that person, if that makes sense.
Cool. I obviously want to get into that a little bit more from how you are at the stage you're at now. But Dom, do you want to give us a little bit of a backstory to your life and how did you end up back in Australia and who you are?
Yep. So Dominic Feller, obviously we're brothers and we're twins. So I guess I've played football all my life. Still playing currently at a semi-professional level. At 17, I moved overseas, went with my dad, and was overseas in Spain and England for 5 years. Throughout the entire time as a aspiring footballer, I wanted to make it to become professional. And throughout my entire career, I've struggled with a lot of things in nutrition, so many injuries, opportunities. We aren't the wealthiest family, so there's a lot of politics in football, and we really struggle with that. And we've, experienced that firsthand, and that's shaped me as the person that I am today. I guess I didn't quite make it and get to the level I wanted to in Europe. and there was a point in time where I was struggling big time mentally more than anything, physically as well. I wasn't happy. I spoke to our dad and to Jacob at one point in time, and the best thing for me was to come home and re-find my fire, my hunger for the game and my love for the game. And that was after 5 years in Europe, which was incredible. It was an incredible time, and I wouldn't change that for the world. And then I came home. I came to Melbourne to visit Jacob, and I stayed in his one-bedroom apartment, and we just hung out for a bit, which is a crazy time. And then, in the first 2 weeks of me being back home, Oxidate was running a school holiday clinic. So I helped Jacob on board with that. It was over 2 weeks. It was absolutely crazy. It was awesome. And from there, really sparked, I got a passion for football again. I loved that period of time coaching. And then I decided to stay in Melbourne. So I moved back home officially. And then still with the aspiration to become a professional footballer. And then, our connection grew. Oxidate, we had a conversation about how can we make Oxidate better, and I wanted to be on board. And then from there, we just grew. I guess I came on board as nutrition coach predominantly because I was studying that overseas in England.
Mm-hmm.
And started helping out coaching Jacob as well with the one-on-ones with the team. We were coaching a team at
Sandringham.
So I coached the under-13s football team together, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And has knowledge of my experience overseas as a coach. So I helped Jacob in terms of that with the skills and that side of thing. And then it became a partnership really, and we grew from there.
Great. We'll actually go into that a little bit more in a bit. But Dom, that was awesome. Thank you. And you've never gone back overseas since?
No, I haven't returned. Melbourne is an incredible place. We spent a lot of time, me and Joe living together ever since. So it's been 4 years now. And
wow.
In football, still aspiring to become a professional footballer, but Oxidate is as big part of my life now. So.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. Now, that's exciting. So I'm going to get more into that because I have no idea how any of this started. So that's why I'm so excited to sit you both down and actually find out. Because I asked Mum, and she can only tell me so much. So Jacob, I really want to get inside your head. So you gave us a little bit of a backstory to who you are and how you've started out in this industry. But I want to know, when did you move to Melbourne? How old were you? What was your thought process? Why Melbourne? And what was your idea on what you were going to do down there?
Sure.
And then we will, I'll ask another question about Oxidate and stuff, but how did you get to Melbourne and where were you in your life?
From that seed that was planted, I've described before in the intro about me, I didn't have a time frame on, what I wanted to achieve. I didn't even really know what it was, if that makes sense. I just had a feeling that I needed to do something that I'm good at, which is working with people. It's given back what I didn't receive, if that makes sense. Like I wanted to be a sports coach to give back everything I didn't get, whether it's the 5%, 10%, 50%, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Canberra, unfortunately, and no disrespect, it's sometimes a bit small, it's a bit closed-minded. In order to, and this just might be a personal thing, in order to become the person that you want to become, you have to often put yourself out there fully and wholly. So a big thing for me has always been fear. So I actually had the opportunity to go to Spain like Dom did when I was 17, and I personally couldn't do it. I was too afraid to leave my network, leave my friends, and I actually couldn't do it. So I don't know if you guys know this or remember it, but I actually had the same or a similar opportunity to be able to go over, and I personally couldn't do it out of fear. So I don't know.
What was that opportunity?
Sorry?
What was the opportunity?
Just to move over and try and make it as a professional footballer, move there with Dad and do what I had to do. So it was an opportunity for me quite similar to Dom, and I couldn't do it down. So look, I live life without any regrets. If I did have regrets, that would be one of them, because I turned down an opportunity for fear. And I've promised myself ever since that I wouldn't turn down any opportunity over fear, because fear is just a byproduct that you deal with as a person. Nobody else cares. It's just a disadvantage to yourself that's in your own head based on whatever. So
absolutely.
I thought, you know what? Can we let us swear in here?
Yeah.
I thought, fuck it. I'm moving to Melbourne. It's 8 hours away. I can't move overseas. I didn't have enough money for that, so I moved to Melbourne. I love Melbourne because down here, most people, like 99% of people, actually want to know who you are, where you've come from, why you do the things that you do. So everyone down here is a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more positive. There's no, oh, you're doing this because of this. There's no hidden agendas. It just is what it is. So I thought, what a great place to start, to learn, to get past your fear barriers, to explore, to become, and move down here.
And had you been here before, or had you tried Sydney? Like, why Melbourne?
A couple of times. So I've been to Melbourne. I've been down here underage, been to a few nightclubs, and I found the nightlife in the city to be extraordinary. But just different. I didn't know anybody down in Melbourne. Didn't know anybody who moved here. So I've came here to be by myself, to become myself, if that makes sense.
How old were you?
So I moved here in the end of 2013, the start of 2014. So I was 24.
Wow. Wow.
Moved here to start and finish my Bachelor's of Sports Coaching and Sports Science degree.
Okay.
It was a continuation of a Diploma of Sports Development. So in 2010, I did a Diploma of Sports Development, which is like an entry-level sports coach, learn about psychology, coaching, personal interactions, all that type of stuff. And also Cert 3, Cert 4 in personal training in 2010. So that was the stepping stone. That wasn't good enough. No disrespect to CIT in Canberra, but it wasn't a great course. I soon figured out that I didn't have enough tattoos, this is a horrible association, wasn't on steroids, didn't like the whole PT environment. If you're a PT back then, it was a very egotistic, visual, negative associated thing. And again, no disrespect, but it just wasn't for me. So I knew I wanted to be a sports coach. I just didn't know how until I moved to Melbourne, started my degree, started exploring, had no distractions. I finished a 3-year degree in 2 years. I studied 5 subjects a semester, and I did summer school as well. So,
remember that.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, Jacob is not a school child. He hated school. I still remember his HSC studying. Dom, do you remember? It was a nightmare. But this guy chose to study and then worked extra hard to finish it sooner and summer school. So, Jacob, that's amazing. And I think we should talk about the person that you wanted to be, the change in lifestyle, and how did that come about? Was that the move to Melbourne? Was that what you wanted, to become the person that you want to be, or?
Absolutely. So I didn't know who I wanted to be. I've always been a person that's tried a lot of different things. And if any of my school friends or mates from Queanbeyan or Canberra actually tune in and listen to this, I'm a completely different person, like not even 180 degrees, 360 degrees. That's not for negative or for positive. Well, it is positive, but I've always tried different things. In school with different groups, I was a part of the Muso group, the Cool group, and I just float around to figure out who I was, because I'm a bit different and I like to be different, if that makes sense.
True that. We're all a little bit different, so that's awesome. How many years are we at now since you graduated? Now, I really want to know when Oxidate, I know it wasn't Oxidate, but when did the thought pop into your mind that you wanted to have your own thing? I understand that you know that there's a massive gap for football players, for coaches and everything. So I know you wanted to fix the gap and to help where you didn't receive. But when did the idea come about that you wanted to have your own thing?
Sure. I've worked for free as like intern or placement hours, feels like eternity. So over the course of the diploma until finishing the sports science degree, it's about 6 years. So in 2016, I graduated.
Wow.
Within that 6 years, I did a hell of a lot of coaching in different avenues. It was never soccer specific until, what were we, 2016, 17, we coached Sandringham. So up until 2016, when I graduated, I didn't specialise, or I didn't step fully into soccer. It was always just after school care or AFL or cricket or scratch cricket, tennis, just different sports, because it wasn't the sport that counts. It's the skills in order to extract performance, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
So 2016, graduated. I was doing an internship for a performance coach. I was shadowing this particular gentleman. I was working with a club. I had my own team, which was an under 18s. So I became a strength conditioning coach for this particular team. And I was underneath the head performance coach, and I just didn't agree with what was being programmed based on my own experiences, based on my own knowledge. And it wasn't about the person or the individual. It was just about the plain black and white, the art versus science of programming, the art versus science of coaching, all that type of stuff. So once I figured out that I was working for free, everyone was working for, an absurd amount of money per hour, I thought, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it. And then I finished uni, graduated, and as soon as I was graduated, I started Oxidate. Now, we spent 2 or 3 months with mum and yourselves, in a family chat on WhatsApp, bouncing ideas around names to name this company, this new idea. I still hadn't figured out what that idea was, what it was going to become. I didn't really care. I just knew that I had to do this and get out there. So that's how it started.
And start on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. That's cool, because that's one of my questions. What was the original idea of Oxidate? But you just answered that. So you weren't sure. You just knew that you wanted to get out there and start preaching and teaching.
And help people properly. The right types of education, the right types of training sessions.
Awesome. And I think that's something that everyone needs to know about Oxidate, because you're all about helping and making sure that everyone knows how to do things the right way. So I remember specifically you guys a fair few years ago, there wasn't as much education around sports science, I guess, and injury prevention and recovery and overload and stuff like that. And you guys were seeing so many wrong things happening. And I remember that was part of your drive to be like, no, like they're actually injuring everyone. So like this is the right way. And I remember you guys just wanted so bad to show that that's not right. Is that right?
It's still the case today. So it's massive in the industry, and it always will be, because people just want a quick dollar, so they'll do anything to make money, and regardless of the quality of service, that's just business. That's just the sport and health industry, really. So we want to correct that. That's our biggest drive now, and that's become our sort of the point of difference for us. Education is pretty much number one in whatever we do, whether it's a face-to-face session, an online consult, a phone call, our online programs, whatever it is, education is at the forefront, because without education, the client or the person in front of you or you're teaching doesn't learn a thing. So what's the point of leading a 10 to 12 week program or a football season without having the knowledge that you were taught? And without that sustainability, then the sporting industry, the football players are not going to grow, and the quality of football in Australia won't grow without that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are doing an incredible job on that, and it's not easy, so well done. And I know, Jacob, you struggled with keeping your cool about it. Sometimes you just wanted to lose your poo-poos, but I think it's something that you've learned, Jacob, along the way. Is this something you've learned, how to not put down in like an absolutely negative way that person, but to show instead? I'm not really wording this correctly, but have you learned how to approach that?
So, and again, Dom's, it's still very consistent. The industry is horrible. Unfortunately, it's a nasty place where people will just try and make money with straight garbage, and it's not correct. It's not ethical. It's not moral. It's not anything besides just people ripping people off. There's no education. There's no consistency. It's not the right types of things. But for the last 3 years, I've been trying to work out as an educator, how can I, show people that that's not correct? And the easiest way would just be to call them out or to tarnish them. And look, to be honest with you, I'm human. I've made mistakes over the last few years where I have perhaps tarnished somebody, or I've pointed the blame or the finger, but it's not about me in terms of better or them in terms of worse or better or whatever. It's just about real world education and real world application. So I think now from today onwards, Dom and I are going to be a lot more vocal, a lot more visual on social media. We're just going to stick to what we know, try and promote more, do more content. I think that's the only way forward. And the more people understand what the right types of trainings are, then the more they'll understand how poor or incorrect the other types are as well, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I've noticed a massive presence on your social medias with a correct way of training. So I really like what you're doing, guys. It's awesome, for real. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Now, the name. How did we come up with Oxidate? What is Oxidate, the name, mean?
Sure. So we bounced probably, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 names in a family chat on WhatsApp, on our good old fan band. That's very, it's an open communication platform. So spitballing ideas, running with colours, running with things. And I guess for me, the most important thing, this is when I was a one-man band still, before Dom came on board and really gave us the oomph. I wanted a brand that was universal. I wanted a brand that wasn't governed by something, because we're not governed. We're in the private sector. We're our own people, and we're free to do, help, change, whatever we like. So I needed a brand that was going to be universal in that context. We couldn't be, Jacob Fowler Soccer or Fowler Soccer or anything like that, because it's personal and then it's soccer specific. Now, yes, we are soccer specific or football specific, but we also work with general pops. We also do rehab. We also do nutrition. We also do myotherapy. We have all of these health. And the word holistic, it's probably a bit tarnished now in the industry. It's been overused, but we're a one-stop destination for performance, for human performance. So, we've just brought somebody onto the team as well, who's going to be doing a psychology element. So tying in the brain with all of our components, the physical, health, treatment, performance, now psychology as well. So it is really a one-stop destination, and that's the vision that I had to create, and Oxidate gives us the freedom to become whatever we need to be.
Wow, that's amazing, because I didn't realize that you had the idea. I didn't realize that was the idea, like to have a universal name, so it wasn't limited to your options. So that's awesome. And now I can't wait to talk about what you actually do and what elements of there are in Oxidate, but there are so many, and that's unreal. Okay, so...
Yes, before we pass on, the Oxidate, the actual word is based off oxygen. So human life, without oxygen, you die, pretty much. So oxygen is the staple of life and health and performance. So from oxygen, it was developed with all different names.
It's the same for the O2 as well. So O2 on the chemical compound is oxygen. So we tried to think, we had a little bit of something attached to it. Oxygen, oxygenization, adding air to, air and conditioning, movement, as Dom said. The O2 is oxygen symbol. That's part of our logo, which Alex looks like she didn't figure that out either. So
can you show us what the O2 is? I've just looked at it.
Reverse there. Yep.
O2, that is unbelievable. Just clear that up. What is it?
O2 is the symbol, the chemical compound for oxygen.
Thank you. Also, Mum needs to be mentioned right here, because she was a big help in the name, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think she actually came up with it, to be honest. So we had all of these random ideas, and I think Mum was the one was like, Oxidate. So yeah, thanks, Mum.
Yeah. Yay. Work, Mum.
Because performance-based, and then evolution, which we've sort of moved away from now. So
really?
Performance, yeah, or just Oxidate. So.
Oh yeah, Oxidate performance, yeah. Okay, one thing I want to know, with me wanting to start my own business and stuff, when did you buy the name? Did you buy it straight away? How long was the process in finding the name? I know you had a million options, but then you found Oxidate. Then what happened? What was the next steps to starting?
Slept on it, absorbed it, let it sit on the palate for a bit, flavorized, sampled it, wrote it down a few times, and the next day bought it. So, yeah.
Wow. It was available. Oxidate Evolution was available.
It was originally Oxidate Performance Evolution, but I just bought Oxidate initially as a sole trader. So, again, this is me before Dom came into the equation. I just bought Oxidate as a sole trader, and just recently, a couple of years now, we've formed a company, and we bought the company Oxidate Performance.
Cool.
Proprietary Limited, yeah.
That's awesome. Well done, guys. It's really cool for me trying to do this all, and you've already done it. So one thing, Jacob, that I just can't even fathom is how the hell did you get started? Like, how did you get your first clients? So, what did you do from there? What happened?
So, not many people know this, but I used to drive around Victoria in my little Hyundai Elantra, little uni student car.
Is that the one?
Sometimes I drive an hour and a half for one client, then I drive an hour and a half back for another client, and then I drive another hour for another client. So this is Melbourne peak hour traffic, commuting with toll gates all the way to the other side of Victoria or Melbourne to train one client to then come back to train another. So look, it's been a hard process, but it just comes down to how bad do you want it and what are you going to do to make it work. So I didn't have any network. I didn't know any people. Generally, if I started this company in Canberra, it would have been 10 times easier, especially the gym, because I know people, you can communicate, you can get clients, it all happens quite easily. So it was quite hard. I applied for the internship. I got some clients through that club. I applied for the coaching position where we coach that Sandringham team. And by just doing good work, so far to date, besides some marketing on Facebook and Instagram, everything's word of mouth. So they say in business, word of mouth is the best type of marketing or advertising, which it is. And that's why we've got such loyal long-term clients, because they've come through a referral base of somebody they trust and know. But just get one client. We had one particular client who we did some great work with, who then talked about the great results and then just kept linking and building. When Dom first moved in, I think I was coaching 28 to 30 private sessions a week, which, if anyone's a trainer out there trading time for money, an hour session times 30 sessions from different locations and destinations, I was working, 60-hour weeks, at least.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And something people don't understand is that you're giving your all in each of those sessions. Like when I teach, you give your energy, and also it's really hard when that person isn't giving you energy back sometimes. So I can only just imagine the hell. Of course, the hustle is real, and of course you would have been enjoying it, but it takes its toll mentally as well as physically.
It's interesting. I don't know how much where you want this convo to go, but a lot of people, I'm going to speak freely. I've lost a lot of friends in the process of Oxidate because I've worked 6 days minimum, often 7 days a week for the last 4.5 years. You don't have much of a social life. Sports coaches, big newsflash, don't earn that much money. You do if you trade time for money. It's your hourly fee, but your whole day or afternoon, evenings are consumed by this. There's a point in time where I had 5 jobs. Oxidate in its initial stages couldn't provide enough money to pay rent and food and phone bills and petrol. So I was a personal trainer as well. So I actually worked at 3 different gyms. I ran Oxidate, and I also coached the under-13s Sandringham soccer team. So I had 5 different jobs, and I was working 60, 70-hour weeks as a coach. Yep.
And what kept you going?
Flow state. Like, again, going back to the work-life balance, if you're doing something that you truly love, whilst I'm coaching on the pitch, for me, that's like meditation. I'm in the zone where nothing else actually matters. Sorry to clients if you're listening, sometimes it's a bit of a drainer to get there, to set up, to do all of the prep work. But once that session starts, once the child or the player's dropped off, and you open that line of communication, then that's your sole input. So whilst coaching, that was huge. I'm pumped up and energized. It's not coaching that was the problem.
Yeah. And so basically you found your purpose, and that's really cool to hear that working truly aligned with your purpose is like meditation. So it's not work, but of course there's so much that goes into it, the preparation, the setup, the pack down, the preparing the programs and stuff like that. But when you're there, when you're with the client, it's like meditation. That's awesome to hear. I'm really happy to hear that from you.
Education platform, yeah. You're sharing stuff for people to learn and all that type of stuff. If anyone's starting out, please purchase the book from Simon Sinek. It starts with why, because in 2016, somebody who lent that book to me is how I found my purpose, and this is why I do what I do. So it's a really great eye opener for you to get more specific and you have more tunnel vision towards what you want to do, then that helps. So yeah, look it up.
Write that down. I'm going to purchase that. But before we finish this, I'll actually ask you for a message to people trying to start out or with their own company and stuff like that. Okay, so let me just gather my thoughts. Okay, so this was pre-Dom. So now Dom has arrived and he's basically arrived in a shitstorm of your 5 jobs, your 60-hour weeks, yada, yada, yada. So did you take some time off when Dom first came?
I think so.
No.
Flat stick, flat knacker. I haven't stopped now. We get 2 weeks off for Christmas and...
Yeah, so...
Same for 4 years.
This is what I do and feel like I do.
Well, I was in London this time. So, like, I only saw what I saw. So a lot went on without me knowing. So I actually have no idea how Dom added to the team. So Dom explained in his intro what he does and what his role is. So that was very good, thank you. But when did the conversation start? How did the conversation start? Dom wasn't happy. He spoke to you. You had an opportunity. Tell me.
Yeah.
So Dom came over for a pre-season training camp. This is going back a while since best of my memories. Dom came over. We tried to get Dom healthy and fit for his trials back in England.
Yes, I remember that.
Being 2 brothers that didn't get to see each other for more than a week or two once a year, living together, it was awesome. Despite all the noise and the bullshit that was happening with work and everything, living together was fantastic. It was a shame it was a 1-bedroom apartment. Dom sort of gate crashed the entire operation there. I was sleeping in the lounge room. Just a full disclaimer, I was in the lounge room, he was in the bedroom. So we didn't share a room or anything. 2 separate...
And eating all your food.
No, I was cooking.
One kitchen, Dom cooked. Dom kept me alive. Fun fact, Dom was the rehabilitator. He actually was cooking for me because I was one unhealthy, burnt out human being.
And we had the office in his bedroom, lounge room. 1 beddie in St Kilda.
Doing it tough. Busy, doing it well on the external, on the outside, but internally doing it real tough. The hustle.
Pause. Footscray, Dom wasn't there. Then you moved to St Kilda, Dom arrived. Now it's adding up to me because I visited Footscray and then I visited St Kilda. So once a year. Wow, awesome. Okay, so now we're here. Dom's added. What was the conversation?
I don't think it was more Dom's just like, holy shit, I'm not going to speak for you, but Dom jumped in to rehabilitate me, to rejuvenate what was happening, and we started coaching Sandringham together. I actually asked for his help because I'm going to give you a bit of a rap here, Dom's football knowledge is insane. Obviously, he's been to Spain, he's been to Europe, and he's learned, a lot from some really, really good coaches, a lot better coaches than Australia. So our under-13s, bunch of soccer kids, never really played soccer before. Dom helped me and helped them to learn proper football, and they played football like something you'd see on TV.
They played what?
Football like you'd see on TV. They actually played possession-based football that community soccer has never seen before. So
well done, lads. Well done. Now, how has that working with your brother straight away? Like, how has that been? And what's the journey been working with family?
Go on then. Speak freely.
Just going back to that point in time, I guess I did come back for a pre-season sort of camp to get my body better and healthier than what it was to go back overseas. But mentally as well, yeah, absolutely. So mentally was the hardest thing because I was 5 years of pushing myself. I spent my entire career trying to become a professional footballer. I still had that goal, but when I came back to Australia and lived with Jacob for the first time, when you move overseas, you sacrifice so much. As a family, we all split up. So we had Mum in Canberra, Jacob moved to Melbourne, Dad and I were in Europe, and then Dad went back home, but I stayed in Europe, so we're all over the shop, which took its toll on each and every one of us, I think. And mentally for me, Jacob and I were so close before I went away. We're brothers, obviously. You miss your family, and it has a massive impact on your mental health. So moving back in and living with Jacob for the first time in years, like it was beyond 5 years, was amazing. So it sort of gave me this new energy, this new love for life. It's just a different aspect, and there's so much more to life than just football. And for the first time in my life, I realised that, I think. Maybe not at the time, but definitely looking back, because for my whole entire life, everything was football, football, football. No matter what happened, I didn't care how I, looked after other people, treated other people. All I wanted was football and to become successful. And I sacrificed so much. And then moving back home, I'm going to make me cry.
Oh, now I'm going to cry.
I'll chime in. So, just being honest, there's a lot that goes into football, that goes into careers, and there's a lot that parents, clients, and our players and people don't understand. All people see is the person on the podium with a medal. All people see is, you signed a contract to this team, but they don't see 24 years of blood, sweat, and tears. Now, this is a huge opportunity for everyone listening, for Dom, Alex, and myself to sit down and talk together, because we are siblings, but we've spent 90% of our life separated. We've spent 90% of our life separated because we're goal-driven, goal-orientated, and we're not scared to make sacrifice and to chase our dreams. So if you want something bad enough, you have to go out and get it, but it often takes shitloads of sacrifice. And again, this is all new, and we've obviously got emotions on the surface level, because this is the first time Dom, Alex, and myself have actually sat down to communicate on a level of even communication. So despite being sisters, we haven't talked about any of this shit before. So, yeah.
Okay. Let's just pause it there for a sec. What was I going to say? Oh, I want Dom to collect himself before we go on. But, yeah, I really want to talk about, Dom, because you went into it and you were saying, like, you didn't care, everything was football. I want you to tell everyone how dedicated you were. So I'll bring it up, but you literally didn't drink. You were living in Spain in prime summer. You didn't drink, you didn't go out, you didn't do nothing. Like, you never did anything, right? And now I want to talk about the balance that you've found since living with Jacob and in Melbourne and having a group of friends as well. So we got in there. So you stopped at when you started to speak, so you hadn't lived with Jacob and your relationship and stuff, and then living with Jacob, you had a new sense of energy for life and stuff.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, Jacob, good work finding him, but Dom probably wants half of that cut out. But that was so cute.
Don't cut it out. It's raw. It's good. We're authentic, transparent people, so it is what it is.
No.
We just haven't spoken about it before, I guess. Anyways, so that just gave me the new sense of life and aspect. So aspect as a person, as a footballer, and having a balance is the most important thing that you can find, I think. And I wish, as a growing footballer, as a aspiring young footballer, I knew about that or had that balance throughout my entire career, because it makes such a difference. So it's what we teach our players now, especially our young players, and I think that's why we make such a big difference to their careers, but more importantly to their lives, because at Oxidate, number one, we want to create good people before a footballer, because if you become a good person, regardless of what your career ends up looking like and how successful you become, if you learn all these tools to apply to your life and become a better person, to have good relationships, to have fun along the way, that's the most important thing. So that's all of our personal experience. As you can see, the emotion, that's what's developed and made us become the company that we are, I think. So going back to overseas, so straight and narrow, so focused. Even going back to high school and college, I was a bad person to other people because I was so dedicated to being a footballer. I didn't give a shit what happened to other people, what they thought. I was just doing my thing and nothing was going to stop me, pretty much, which I think that drive and that hunger is unique, and that's why I did go overseas and play at such a high level and become the footballer I am today, because I'm so so determined to achieve what I want to achieve, and nothing will stop me pretty much. And now that's translated towards Oxidate, and that's exactly how I feel about Oxidate. But in saying that, if I did have the balance, which it took time to learn, I would have been a better footballer, and I think I would have potentially made it even further. Because when you're so devoted to something and you're so narrow-minded, you tend to overtrain. You tend to kill yourself mentally. I developed poor eating habits, and that led me down my line of nutrition to actually start to educate myself, because I use myself like as a guinea pig to try every single diet.
That you do.
Yeah, every single diet, every single way of eating. I starved myself at times, I overate at times, all these different things, gave me this knowledge and understanding that you can only get firsthand or doing it or speaking to someone who has done it. So with that, I sat with mum and, over the phone and said, I need to study something because I'm so focused on football. I need an escape. I need something different to stimulate my brain, because all I did was wake up, train, play PlayStation all day, and then train again every single day, 7 days a week. So I was overtrained, I was overstimulated, had no rest days, and had no knowledge base. In Spain, the coaching was incredible, but because I wasn't a Spanish person, I was treated differently. And the communication from the coaches to me wasn't the same as if I was in Australia, for example, because, my language wasn't as good as it wasn't fluent, which made it extremely difficult.
Yeah, let's talk about how you couldn't necessarily... I remember one day you told me, Ali, I can't be myself because I don't know how to joke in Spanish. I remember you were like, I can't make friends, I can't be myself because I don't know how to joke. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get my personality across. And I just wanted to tell you like how much of a difference it was. So you started off in the north of Spain and you really struggled there to prove yourself, and that's where I think you did the most growing. And you were with Dad, but then you guys moved to Valencia, and I understand Jacob was there for the move and stuff like that. But in Valencia, you had the knowledge, you had enough vocabulary in Spanish where this is where you started to kind of live a little bit more, and you made some friends, right? I know you made some friends up north, but you made friends in Valencia, and you could kind of joke and show your personality. And I remember the days where you were like, they love me because you're funny.
Can I chime in as well, Ali? Can you maybe tell some of our audience, Dom, the difficulties of that, how long that actually took, which is, I think, what Alex is asking as well.
Yeah. So
and how do you drink and all of that?
So moving to Spain, I studied Spanish in college before I went over, but it meant absolutely nothing, because once you're immersed in the culture, I simply didn't know enough to communicate. So my dad and I, we both went to Spanish school every single day. They had training. I'd go to Spanish school for 2 hours and then go straight to training. So I'd rock up at training, my mind full of all this Spanish learning, and then trying to train on top of that was insane. As a footballer, not speaking the language is a massive barrier. I was perceived as this Australian boy. I was very good. The boys were saying to me, like, as much as they could, like, you're awesome, like, welcome, blah, blah, blah. But it was very hard to make friends because you can't express yourself as a person. And the same thing applies to football. If you can't express yourself as a footballer on the field with your communication, it limits how much you perform as an athlete as well. So your flair, you're not as confident, and that takes a massive hit on your performance and your mental stress, because every day I come home and be like thinking about, I was thinking about how much, what the other players were thinking of me as much as my performance. So that's mentally taxing every single day. And it took a long time for me to get good at Spanish to create friends, which I did, and they're awesome. We're still friends today. But it had a massive impact on my performance, and then, overall, how far I went in my career, which is difficult. But yes, when Jacob came over, we had a holiday. That gave me new life, some new energy, which is awesome. We moved to Valencia, and Valencia is a more universal type of city. So there's a lot of people there studying, and there are a lot of people speak English. So I found a new group of friends. English was much more spoken. I was getting better at Spanish still. And then
it was warmer.
Sorry?
It was warmer.
Warmer, yeah. Gijón is freezing. And then I was able to enjoy life a bit more, which then translated to my football. I was able to enjoy my football a bit more, which then translates to your performance. So you join yourself as a person and as an athlete, your performance increases and makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
Was it too little too late? Potentially, because, I was still playing 4th and 5th division in Spain and still didn't quite cut it or didn't quite make it to the level that I wanted to, which was fine. The experience was incredible, and I wouldn't change it for a thing because I learned so much, and now it's made me the coach that I am today, which is now a massive part of Oxidate, which is awesome. Yeah.
No, it's just again to people listening, young soccer players. I know you've got different follow base audience to us.
Oh, that's good. This is good.
The idea of going overseas to trial, like we're all Spanish citizens. We have dual passports. Dom is pretty good at speaking Spanish, like he's pretty much fluent. And even then, there's still a barrier. You're still the Australian boy. There's still these constraints that you don't know about. So everything we do is based on what we now know, which will all of our clients. That's just what I wanted to put in there.
Yeah, so I think all of that now is developing this new program that we're going to release, because it's everything that you need as a footballer and a support network as well at the same time, that these players now become part of this program will have us for the rest of their career pretty much. And we're going to teach the tools that, if they do end up going overseas and they're good enough, that they'll be able to adapt to the situations that they're faced with, because experiencing it firsthand for 5 years in a country where I didn't speak the language is massive. So we're putting all that knowledge and that experience into this one program to teach, an athlete, if they want to go to the next level, how to do so. And if they don't go to the next level, that's totally fine as well. We want to teach them that, because
how to deal with it.
With life skills, and the actual matter of fact is you probably won't make it. Percentages, I think it's 1% of English football academies, 1% of the academy players actually make it to the pro team, which is insane. So you think about that in Australia, the percentage is fuck all, to be honest. Like it's so yeah, so you probably won't make it, and that's the matter of the fact. But if you can learn these skills, enjoy the journey while you're doing it, that's this new program. That's what Oxidate's, developing towards and becoming.
That's unreal. So moral of the story is you guys have lived through everything yourself, and the tools weren't there to help you. You didn't have anything to help you. You did it yourself. If this was there, you could have had maybe a whole new different story. So now you're making sure that every single footballer today has the opportunity to have everything. All the knowledge, all the tools ready to go. I also quickly want to add, just before we go back to you, Jacob, with Dom, I remember I moved over to Valencia as well. Unfortunately, Jacob wasn't there. Dad wasn't there. Great. We had the best time of our lives. This is the time where I really was proud of Dom, because he let go a little bit. He started to relax. He actually would have one beer, I remember. So Dom never drank, never nothing. That's how dedicated he was to football. When he says he was dedicated, he would eat clean, not see anyone, not go out, nothing. When I was there, it was summer and it was your time off, and he actually kind of relaxed a little bit, and we did make a massive group of friends who, as you said, you're friends with those still today. And I think moving back home with Jacob in Melbourne, and you having your friends that and they're Australian, people don't understand how much easier it is living in your own country. So for people that move overseas, you struggle hard, yes. But when you come back, it's so rewarding because you don't have to try. And so Dom has really found himself, just speaking for you, sorry, and you've really found the balance. And you go out with your friends and you do have a couple of drinks. So it's amazing for me to see the growth of you as a person. So yay. And
that's obviously just part of growing up as well. But as an athlete, find that balance earlier is important, but it's not to say go out and do that type of stuff, because if you want to make it, you need to be on a path where it's it's pretty devoted and dedicated to everything you do, and that applies to nutrition, to your activities, to recovery, all that type of stuff. But having that mindset where you can eat junk food here and there, or not do your recovery to 100% every single day. These little things where you have that balance, but know it's okay. That's extremely important as well. So
and not beat yourself up.
Yeah, so it takes time to develop. But if you have a coach or a program that teaches you that early on, and this is to parents that are listening, parents, especially in Australia, are they almost want to play for their child or want to get this success for their own child. If they can understand this message as well, that it's okay to not be 100% clean and super, super, super dedicated every single day. It's okay, and it's more beneficial for the child's development, mentally, physically, and it gives them enjoyment, because you're not enjoying the process, and it's too strict, and you won't drop out. There'll be a dropout and you won't succeed to the level you want to. So,
right. Let's start with, what is Oxidate today?
Okay, so Oxidate today is a one-stop performance destination. We're a brand new training facility, which has a gym component for strength conditioning, injury prevention, rehabilitation. So that's under one banner. We have the football pitch, an indoor artificial FIFA-approved soccer pitch, which covers skill development, sprint, run mechanics, agility, all of those stuff, team development, training sessions. And we also have a recovery room. Our recovery room consists of two, we haven't announced this yet to the public, so this is a big deal for us, but we've got two swim spas. We've actually got two pools in our facility in our recovery room. So that allows us to do contrast water therapy. So we have a cold plunge pool it sits between 8 and 10 degrees Celsius. And we have the hot pool, which sits at about 37, 38 degrees Celsius. So we're able to do the hot-cold contrast therapy. It's got showers. Soon there'll be a sauna in there as well. So it's a nice little recovery room. It allows teams, people, to do their recovery sessions. We also have the health component in the department, which is Dom's sector. He's in football as well, but Dom's sector is the massage therapy, nutrition coaching, and we also have my therapist as well. So we cover all bases under the one destination or one roof. Yeah.
Wow. And the facility, how did that come about?
So going back to what we were saying before, very, very busy traveling. So as a business model, Oxidate was not successful for long term because purely it was a burnout mechanism to be able to travel to accommodate to all of these clients, because we grew so quickly. It just wasn't doable for a coach, even with two coaches. Melbourne, you got 4 seasons in one day. Rain, weather constraints, lights, we don't have lights on pitches. Just there was a whole heap of variables that were out of our control. So it wasn't consistent in what we could deliver to our clients, and we prefer consistency. It's something that we preach. So going through the process of elimination, pros and cons as a business to grow, we needed our own space. I used to rent a space for gym, but the gym didn't have the field, and there wasn't a destination for athletes to go to. There are some other facilities in Melbourne, and I'm sure they're great, but at the moment, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a facility like Oxidate in Australia. There's not a one-place destination that has everything we just listed under one roof. Now, that's a business model that works for us because we don't have to travel, but it's also a business model that works for our clientele, because reflecting on mum and dad having to drive me to a strength conditioning coach, drive me to a nutritionist or a dietitian, or to a massage therapist or to a physiotherapist. There wasn't one place that you can go to and you can get everything in from one place. So it just takes all the guesswork. It makes it really easy. We're trying to look after our clients as much as possible. And the easiest way for us to do that is from under our own roof.
And it's congruent throughout the whole system, because under one roof, all our coaches are interconnected, and then what the player's doing in the field, we know about as massage therapists, what he needs treated through our screenings. We apply that to our nutrition. Everything's interconnected, which creates a holistic approach for an athlete, that all systems are working together to create optimal performance, optimal health, optimal recovery. And that just doesn't exist until now.
Yeah, usually there's big gaps between a physio and a strength coach, or between a team coach and a physio, or physio and a dietitian or a nutritionist. There's all these gaps that not many people interconnect, and it creates a messy situation for the client. You're hearing multiple voices, different opinions. So we're really just ironing all the creases out and just making it very, very easy and seamless process for them.
Yeah, which is really cool to hear because obviously in my industry, you never find everything you need in the one spot either. So this is why you've got the name of the best facility in Melbourne. What's a better sentence? The best.
We're just labeling ourselves as the one-stop performance destination. We can't say we're the best. We can only let other people do the talking for us. And once we're officially open, which ties into COVID and currently being shut down, once we're officially open, we do our launch party. We release a few more of our, new programs and hidden awesomeness that we've got, tucked up our sleeve for all of our clients. We'll become, the performance specialist in the company that's, the leading company.
Which is unbelievable. People don't even know that you haven't even properly launched yet. All of this is just by word of mouth, people, everything. So boys, well done. It's unreal, unbelievable. And people don't know how hard it is to get going and get started. So listening to your story is really real. And it's not some beautiful story. No, it's been blood, sweat and tears and still going. People don't understand that and they don't see it, and how hard you both actually work. Now, COVID. This is the second shutdown. This is the second lockdown. What has that done to you guys mentally and as a business? First time and then getting ready to reopening and then shutting down. What's happened?
Look, without getting into any of the stuff attached to what COVID is, obviously everyone knows it's a horrible predicament for a lot of people. At the moment, Melbourne's in lockdown. We can't leave the house without a mask on. We can't do anything. There's a lot of jobs that have and work types have been shut down. The only people still going is shopping centres. I think cafes can do takeaway. Construction industry is still flowing because it has to keep the economy going. But all gyms, trainers, any sporting centre, any of those types of places are just officially shut. So we're really struggling, just being honest with you. Unfortunately, we don't qualify for any of the rent abatements. We don't qualify for any of the government grants, any of that stuff. So a lot of people in the first lockdown are like, oh yeah, you guys are fine, you get free money. Now, no, we don't. We have not got 1 cent from the government. We don't qualify. We're a brand new company. All of the bylaws, you have to earn X amount of dollars in the first financial year. You have to have a certain amount of employees. You have to have all your BAS, your tax, all of this stuff that the government's put in place in order to be able to get that stuff to receive the benefits. As a new company that's just opened a gym, we don't qualify. So it's a very real, very difficult, very horrible predicament for us to be in. The first shutdown, personally, I enjoyed because I haven't stopped for anything in 4 years. It was my honest, even I go on holidays, they say it takes more than a week or 2 weeks to actually relax. Every holiday I've ever been on, I just start to relax and I have to go back to work. So we had 4 weeks off. It took me the first 2 weeks, I was losing my mind. I didn't know what to do. I started running every day. I hate running. I used to run 3 to 5 kilometers every single day just to keep my sanity because I didn't know what to do with myself. I've not stopped. I'm like a shark. I can't stop swimming. So that was great for me. The second half of the lockdown was beautiful. I got to relax, reassess, recharge, rejuvenate, to come back in and prepare and to do what we're going to do. The horrible bit is we just opened and we had 2 weeks of trading, which was massive. We had a huge influx of clientele, teams. We signed, 2 or 3 new teams. We're already working with 2 or 3 teams. We're talking about like hundreds of people here that were ready to rock and roll with us. And then COVID kicked off for the second time and we're just shut down and unable to do much. Yeah.
Was that shattering?
Mm-hmm. I spent the last 2 weeks off the phone because mentally was having some real difficulties. There's very real attachments to depression. There's very real attachments to all sorts of nasty stuff that comes with all of your hopes and dreams in this beautiful bubble. Got restricted the first time, comes up and then gets burst completely for the second time. So it's pretty shattering. But as of today, we're back on track. So I've got a new lease on life, bit of meditation, bit of mindfulness, bit of time away from social media, phone, just recharge. And whatever makes you recharge and get back on top, then that's what you have to do, and that's what we've done.
And that's awesome. I think a lot of people wouldn't expect you guys to be involved in meditation and mindfulness and stuff, but something about our families. Thankfully, Mum introduced us to stuff like this really early on, even when we didn't really know what it was. And all of us are big on meditation and self-help books and the podcast and all of that. So I think that's one thing that people should know about you both as well, is that some things that you put on social media, they can tell. But yeah, I think that's something really cool, an aspect about you both. Dom, the effect on you as well, the same?
Yeah, pretty much. It was hard to deal with the first lockdown because no one knew what it was. But it was a good break, because especially since we've opened or started working on the centre, it's been 7 days a week, 14, 16-hour days every single day for both of us, even more so for Jacob. And that little break at the beginning was awesome, but then it became frustrating. It was actually 12 weeks in total.
Was it?
I think from the time we actually had to stop trading in the centre until we reopened. Other businesses reopened before us, because gyms were one of the last ones. So I think it was 12 weeks, which is like 3 months. So at the end of that, it was frustrating, but we worked extremely hard to make sure once we did reopen, we were all guns blazing, which we were, and it was awesome. Our setup was incredible. And then to get re-shut down after just 2 weeks, based on we won't go into why COVID re-happened in Melbourne especially, super, super frustrating, and almost felt like, we're still going through it today. There was 500 new cases today, so it's still happening. It's insane. So they announced a 6-week lockdown, which for us as a gym, we potentially will be longer than that again. So thinking about that is extremely difficult mentally. And for the first 2 weeks, which is just past the 2-week mark, I think, 3 weeks, I can speak for myself, as Jay was saying, extremely depressed. Like, I just felt like the world was against me. I haven't felt like this for a long time, and nothing, like I just didn't know drive to do anything. I couldn't train. I haven't been eating, all this type of stuff. So that just comes with a situation that's really, really difficult to handle. But as with Jacob, starting to adapt to it, start to come out the other end, as we always do. But ever since the new lockdown as well, same as the last lockdown, we've continued to provide for our clients through online programming. We can't do one-on-ones right now because it's just too difficult to travel all over Melbourne. And it's too difficult to provide that service to absolutely everyone that we do coach. So we just reverted back to online coaching only, which our online platform is amazing. So that's how we've adapted. We learned that from lockdown number 1. But as with everything, we continue to adapt, and we'll just wait until we can reopen. So fingers crossed. Until then, we're just going to work hard to build all our processes and programs in place for now and for the future. And, we'll come out the other end bigger, better, and stronger, as we always do. So
we hope. Depends how long it goes for, because the struggle is real. And that's something that I'd like to share with everyone, because everyone sees only social media. Social media is only glorified. On the outside, we look, like everybody else, fantastic. But on the inside, it's not so bubbly or pleasant. It's a horrible, horrible predicament. Just think about paying a commercial lease without $1 coming in, and, times that for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, God knows how long. But as Dom said, we always come out the other side. If you're positive and you want it, you make it work. So we're going to make it work, and we'll get back to doing what we do best.
And the only way is to keep pushing on. So there's massive challenges that you guys are facing day to day. And even just if you let your mind wander, thinking about how long this could go for is extremely depressing and daunting. So I don't envy the position you guys are in, especially in Melbourne. People think, like you said, you're getting money from the government. No, you're not getting any help. People are sick and going out doing whatever, but they don't understand. And I think to hear firsthand how it's actually affecting a business, a small business, it's insane. People don't understand still. I want to ask disregarding COVID, what is the biggest dream for Oxidate, and what do you see the future for Oxidate?
I think it's going to be 2 separate questions. I mean, together, collectively, Dom and I, I'm speaking freely, or permission to speak freely, Dom and I are two very different people, and I think our synergy and why we work best, take away the brother component, is because we're two very different people. What I don't have, Dom has. What Dom has, I don't have, if that made sense. Like, we complement each other in a business, knowledge, education, experience base, in a synergy that I feel hasn't been done before. So, you know, his nutrition without my performance coaching, his football with my experience, that type of stuff, it's really, really unique. That's why we're a unique company. For me personally, I've got some massive goals of mine that I'd like to achieve in the next 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Being a coach on and off for the last 10 years, there's a lot of familiarities and there's a lot of sections and components of coaching that I'm, you know, very, very used to and I'm not challenged in. So I'd like to always keep pushing and keep challenging myself. I'd like to be a small fish in a big pond, and that's how I want to spend the rest of my life. So I personally would love to get into schools. At some stage of my coaching career, I'm going to be in schools and become a teacher in some component. I don't know if it's actually going to be a teacher or a CIT teacher perhaps, or do we do Oxidate in schools? Do we do in-school programs? Do schools come to us? You know, I think the next chapter is primary school education and correcting or influencing or contributing towards, you know, what we know as general PE and general health sciences, if that makes sense. I'd like to do schools, and then I'd like to potentially open up a second or third destination in Australia. We've got to get this place open and functioning correctly, but I feel that there should be this opportunity for football clients and their parents in destinations. So in Canberra there should be one, in, you know, maybe Sydney or Brisbane there should be one as well. So we'll see how we go. That's a personal goal of mine. I'd like to take the company to multiple destinations and be in schools in each of those destinations. So.
Thank you. Dom?
The same thing as Joker in terms of multiple destinations. We want to influence. We want to make a change in obviously as many people and athletes' lives as possible, which we will. There's no question about that. But we want to do it on a scale that actually has an impact on the industry and the quality, and on the footballing world, Australian football, especially because the standard of Australian football, as everyone knows, massive discussions, especially this year, around where the game's going and stuff like that. There's not opportunities for players. You know, a wealthier family always has a better opportunity for football to succeed, but we want to bridge the gap between, you know, you don't have to be a wealthy person or have a family that's going to pay for you to succeed in life with anything, let alone football. We want to bridge the gap to provide opportunity to absolutely everybody, regardless of your background, who you are, who your parents are, all that different type of stuff. Because there's hidden gems. There's athletes in Australia that can become world beaters, you know. They can go over to English Premier League and make it like Harry Kill. So we're going to provide the opportunity, real opportunity to everybody.
Without politics and without government bodies and without wealth and financial contribution. It's just talent for talent, plain black and white. Football shouldn't discriminate. Sorry to jump on what you're saying. It shouldn't discriminate. And I don't care, you know, how good a coach you are or what position you are in the industry or what level. Football does not and should not discriminate. At the moment it does, and we're here to change that, because talent's talent. If you're not good enough, let's get better. Here's how we get better. If you are good enough, let's go do other things and become great.
Unfortunately, that's in every industry as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we want to make a change. We want to provide the opportunity for people, whether they come to us or not, and you know, take us up on the opportunity. We want to make sure that we're delivering the best of the best services, education, a place to come to get all of that in one area, and then just give the opportunity to Australian footballers and improve the standard of Australian football, especially in terms of coaching, because Australian football coaching is not at the level it should be, and it is quite bad in a lot of places. And we won't go deep into that, but you go to Europe. I spent 5 years in Europe, and the quality of coaching from whatever team, whatever level, is exceptional. So we want to bridge the gap on all those different levels, and ultimately improve the standards and provide opportunity. So that's
unreal.
a day-to-day mission, isn't it? But we create multiple avenues, centres where we're all over Australia providing the same systems, same opportunities.
Awesome. And I don't think people know, Jacob, that you've actually worked with coaches or were going to be working with coaches and stuff and educating. So that's a massive step in that direction.
That'll be phase 3. I mean, I've already done it and still doing it. And the new program that Dom's described with this other gentleman who's come on board for the psychology element, we're building a platform, working with players and parents, schools and children, and coaches. So there's an educational platform in 3 phases, 3 different categories. And in each of those categories, it's the same philosophy, same mission, same purpose, our systems, our beliefs, and just trying to rewrite, and improve. Yeah.
Yay. Well, it's super exciting. The only thing that we've got to get through now is this COVID situation. Now, yeah, but let's not dwell on that too much, because you guys are in a really good place today. So I'm excited. I just want to double check. Okay, so from the beginning till now, let's just do one thing. What is the biggest thing you've learnt in terms of, it can be anything towards business or personally? What's the biggest thing you've learnt throughout this whole process of Oxidate? That's a hard question.
In terms of relating it to business and Oxidate, if you're going to do something, do it properly. This is a message for business owners or any employee, whatever it is. If you're going to do something, do it properly. So by that, I mean, give 100% into every single thing you're doing, whether it's right here, right now, the person in front of you, give your best quality of service in that moment, because that will always propel you forward, take you to where you want to go. Because as soon as you slip up, you don't give a service to someone, they're going to speak badly about you potentially. It's going to impact your business. If you do that multiple times a week, for example, your progression won't be as much as it should be. So if you're always in the moment, giving the best quality service, whether it's online, in person, it makes a massive difference. And that's how we have, dealt with every single situation and client for the 4 years. And that's how you get word of mouth referrals. And they're the most valuable. And that's how we have clients that have been from day one. We're still coaching them today.
Awesome.
I think that's a big one. And number 2, have systems in place. So when I came on board with Jacob, we started to add online as a part of the component of Oxidate, so we can deliver and help people outside of Melbourne. But have systems in place where you can streamline everything that happens. So from your engagement with the client to the next process of the email being sent, all that different type of stuff. A system in place saves you so much time and energy, and that's gives back to you. Then you can give it, gives you more time to then give it to the people in person, if that makes sense. So system in place for everything that you do, all the services that you apply, saves you time and energy. And then you can put that time and energy into other areas that are more important in the long run.
Yep, awesome. Jacob?
Before I forget. So for me, I could probably do a whole nother talk on what I've learned, but the most important thing for me that I've become very aware of is you can't do anything by yourself, and nor should you want to or have to. I was a one-man band for a long time, and before Dom came on board, I had no systems, I had no processes. As a sports coach, you're front of house, back of house, you're a counsellor, lawyer, parent, support network, sports coach, and, all of these things tied into one job description or one job role. Having what Dom's just described, systems and processes in place to streamline and to give you the ability to be, coherent or aware in that conversation is super, super important. But you can't do this by yourself. You think about an elite level athlete, they've got a team of network and support around them. They've got the best of the best person in places. And it's the same for me. So going from sole trader to company co-director unfortunately, with the work and what's happening in COVID, there's not much work happening. But at one stage, we had 5 staff that were on board. So for me as a person, as a businessman growing, come to terms with that you can't do it by yourself. You need the right types of coaches and the right people in the right places, whether you have to train them or help them, or you employ based on, they're better than you in that specific area. I treat it the same as an athlete. As a businessman, you need a support network and the right people in the right places to, do stuff tenfold. So
that's huge. Well done. That's huge. And what a team you have. They're awesome. So just give it up for your team. So Jacob, what is your biggest inspiration?
First thing that pops to your head, biggest inspiration. The idea of looking back in whatever time frame of, holy shit, I've changed 1,000 people's lives. Holy shit, I've built something that's a legacy that has helped 1,000, 100, 1, however many people. Something that's real and something that person or people will carry on with them throughout their lives and potentially pass on to somebody else. So having the ability to do so in one coaching session, or one training program, or in a season, to then for me to be able to reflect on, as an old man, more of an old man, that I've actually changed 1,000 people's lives is, that's probably my answer.
Unreal. You can take that question any way and you took it that way, so that's awesome. Dom, go.
Good question. That's it.
My biggest inspiration, it's probably our family, to be honest. So our parents are incredible people, and both very successful in their own rights. Our mum is insane with what she's achieved and continues to achieve. Same with Dad, and you two, being my twin sister and my older brother, especially what he's done with Oxidate and how he's transitioned from the person he was to what he's become. It's inspiring. It's incredible. And same with you, being overseas, achieving what you've done, come back to Australia, adapting life. All of that makes up, that inspires me, and that's what drives me every day. I want to, be successful for myself, but also for our family, and, yeah.
Yay! Just quickly, you guys are my biggest inspiration. I channel you every day, just to let you know. Biggest highlight?
For me, it would be this centre, I reckon. So seeing all the hard work from Jacob and how much I've put in over the years. We had this idea of building the centre 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Ever since the beginning, we wanted to create a space where it was everything under one roof. And that's probably the big highlight was probably the day we got the keys and walked in here. We've got photos of us with an empty warehouse. It's scary to think how much has changed now and where it's going to go. So far that, and I want this to be the biggest highlight ever because of what it will become.
Awesome.
I agree. And the biggest highlight is this place. And from where, from, as Dom said, with the moment we got the keys, we've put up the photos of holding the keys to standing in an abandoned, empty warehouse to, in front of I think the biggest highlight for me is standing in front of that sign when it was the least sticker went onto it. It was real. We just literally signed ourselves up to the dream. We took all of the, the leaps and we're invested and we're here and we're making it work. Can I just add something to the whole warehouse thing? So a lot of people ask us questions about, how did you find the warehouse? How did you, all of this stuff towards it. I've looked and we've looked, Dom and I have looked together at about 10 different spaces. Mum's even been down from Canberra to look at multiple spaces. I've probably looked at over 20 different warehouses, in person, discussing, assessing all of that stuff. I built a 3D render of this place and it took me weeks of late nights. Like I'd finish coaching, get home at 9 or 10 p.m. and then stay up to 1 or 2 a.m. just to build this 3D render to give us this visual representation of what our dream could and should look like. So the output that went in even before we signed the lease, it's just unheard of. And these are the type of things that you have to do to make something work. And this is the background noise in the trenches, the stuff that people don't see. It wasn't you found this awesome space. We actually looked at this space, walked in and thought this would be the dream space, but A, it's too big, B, it's too expensive, C, we can't make it work. So it was all this fear around the enormity of this centre, and here we are making it ours, and it's going to become one of the best spaces in Australia.
And I can't wait for people to see it.
I think it ties into your Mindful Mondays is try something on no matter what. So with this, I found the listing of this place and it's way too expensive and too big. But I said to Jacob, I'm going to call anyway. I called him and the guy actually rang back and said, what's your budget, blah, blah. And he said, we're going to have to potentially reduce to match what you need. So we're like, let's just go have a look anyway. But when we walked in, it was too expensive, too big. We were like, holy shit, this is like the dream place. This is probably what we'll propel ourselves into in the future. But here we are today. We took the leap and, we made it work. Even though we jumped straight the deep end, we're still surviving and we will be successful. But to all the listeners, just do it, really. If you've got the dream, commit to it. And if you fail, you fail. But with that failure, it's always going to be lessons learned, and you will become a better person, you become a better business, and it's worth it.
And I don't think people understand what you've gone through with the centre in terms of not having any idea. So you've learned so much in general when acquiring a space. My people have no idea what's going on and what to do. And if only you guys knew what you know now before, but that's part of life, isn't it? Of course, with the fellas.
Well, just in general, you don't. If I want to cry and laugh right now so bad that it's so easy what I know now, what we know now about this place. It was so easy, but 6 months ago we had no idea, and it's cost us 2 arms and 2 legs of learning. They say when you learn something, it costs you money. Yes, absolutely it does. So I'm going to open up a line of communication for any of your listeners or people who have listened in so far. If anyone would like any assistance, if you're thinking about opening your own space, if you're thinking about doing your own thing, whether it's business, sole trader, companies, gyms, warehouses, please reach out, because I will save you $100,000.
True that.
I'm thinking about doing a consultancy about opening your own gym, because there is no communication channel, there is no education. I've had that many meetings with council members, surveyors, builders, and nobody still gave me the right information, and it's a shitstorm. So if anyone would like any assistance, reach out.
It should be labelled something for beginners.
Now, not to open a gym, or opening a gym for dummies.
Yeah, opening a gym for dummies with not an endless
supply
pocket. Yeah, not an endless budget. Budget. Opening a business for dummies on a budget. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Boys, okay. Is there anything that else you want to say or talk about that we haven't covered?
I've never really been interviewed or asked questions before on Oxidate, and it's very hard to select what information to share, because in all honesty, it's not all positive. There's a lot of negatives, there's a lot of hard work, blood, sweat and tears, and everyone sort of says that, but there's not really many people sharing how actually tough it can be and sometimes is, and how horrible it is, because the hindsight is business, and unfortunately becoming more of a businessman, there are some horrible, shitty experiences and some horrible, shitty people that unfortunately you come into contact with. I guess a message would be, trust yourself and back yourself no matter what. Take people's opinions and guidance and information, treat it like a t-shirt, try it on. Is it the right fit for you? Does it work? Assess it. It's not always the end all and be all. Don't trust anybody. I know that sounds like such a negative thing to say, but hear people out, listen to it, accept it. But I don't know what I'm trying to say there. Don't trust people. Back yourself. Trust yourself. If you feel it in your bones and your stomach, despite what else is happening, just back yourself all day, every day, and don't take no for an answer, and just persevere.
And that's coming from personal experience, so that says massive things. So to finish off with Mindful Mondays, you've obviously shifted your energy from the place you were in last week, let's say. This week, what are you focusing on and applying to your week ahead to stay in this positive zone?
Just getting back to consistency. Accepting that it's okay to feel a bit down, accepting that it's a difficult period of time, and that's absolutely fine, but not to dwell on it. You can't play the victim. I did play the victim for the last 2 weeks. It was all horrible. It was too hard, and I felt like quitting, and all of the normal human stuff. Accepting you're a human being, and you've got 2 choices. You either take a step forward towards your goals or a step backwards. It's as simple as that. So taking a step forward would be to achieve something this week. And what is it I want to achieve? We've got a long list of to-dos. Maybe do one of those a day. Just take small steps, be okay with it, build back up, find consistency, find momentum in whatever way, shape, or form, and enjoy the process, because the days are too short not to enjoy them. So why not?
And what a process it is. Good work. Dummy?
Probably just leave it at
Yeah.
that. For me, it's just taking one day at a time. So today, I want to enjoy today and achieve something. So, like Jacob said on our list, tick some stuff off, make some good content that we're building towards, and then feel good about that right here, right now, in today. Not thinking about tomorrow, the week ahead, the COVID weeks ahead, whatever it is. So just today, being more in the moment, which I haven't been over the last few weeks.
Well, guys, I can't say how proud I am of you guys. Before COVID, during COVID, one of the highlights for me to see for you guys was that 2-week period when you were open, because the amount of people you were in touch with, the Matildas, the A-League players, it was mind-blowing to see. And it's just the tip, the starting point where Oxidate can be /go. So I was devastated when you guys obviously had to shut again. Obviously, it's stopping you from progressing and doing the work that you're set out to do. So we will get through this, and it's going to be insane. And I'm just so excited for the world to see what Oxidate can be. We just need this shit to go away, and then we're free. It's been an honour to get the time with you guys, because if COVID wasn't on, I don't think you would have had this time, and that's why I've never had any time. And I'm actually worried to even call you both, because I know how important that every single second of your day is. So thank you so much for this. Thank you, COVID, for allowing us to do this, and we're going to have this forever, so I'm super excited. I think we covered most things, but we can literally have another one about one of those subjects. So it's like we only just touched on everything, and I just can't thank you both enough, and I'm so excited.
Well, thanks for having us, Al. And again, before, depending on what you keep of this conversation and what we use and put out there, but we've never had an opportunity to sit down and have a chat, all three of us, in this capacity, not about work or our goals or our beliefs or any of that stuff. So it's crazy to think that 3 siblings that haven't even done that yet. I'm 30 years old and you guys are 26. So having this unique opportunity from COVID, from yourself starting your own business, I just want to say also super, super proud of you. What you're doing is fantastic. This Mindful Monday stuff's awesome. I think you should turn it into a podcast. I don't like the word podcast because everyone's doing one, but Mindful Mondays, is that correct? Mindful?
Yep, Mondays with Ali Moves.
I think that, what you're doing is fantastic. I'm very excited for you. Going back to, startup phase, it's the most euphoric phase. So just use whatever you're doing, just enjoy it and do it, tenfold. So well done. I'm excited to see where you go with it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trying.
Thank you so much. It's been very good. And what you're doing is amazing. And I know you ring me with, I don't know what I'm doing and all that type of stuff. But I said to you, if you're enjoying it, yes. Are you still being creative? Yes. Then you just keep going, really, and see where it takes you, because at the moment you don't know, and that's fine. So any new businesses starting up or people with ideas, just go for it, see how it unfolds, and then adapt as you go. So Mindful Mondays, mental health right now is absolutely massive for everybody all over the world dealing with COVID and everything, especially business owners. So things like this, anything positive towards mental health, and being open and speaking freely and having communications with your friends, your family, is so important, more important than ever before. So thank you for this, and for everyone else that you interview and stuff, it's going to be awesome. So tune in to Ali Moo's Mindful Mondays.
Yay! No, thank you. That's it, guys. Thank you.